TV.
Today, we will be speaking about active transportation and how it supports a healthier, more connected, and sustainable city. We want to be a city that moves, and this means building a balanced transportation network to get people and goods where they want to go safely. Active transportation is an important aspect of this network. It can include walking, cycling, and the use of human-powered or hybrid mobility aids, such as wheelchairs, scooters, e-bikes, rollerblades, snowshoes, and cross-country skis, and more. To learn more about how the city is promoting active transportation, we will be speaking with our Manager of Traffic Engineering, Amer Afridi. We will also explore the benefits and impacts of active transportation through a panel discussion with Meghan Hollett from Ordinary Spokes, Justin Lee from the city's Sustainable and Active Mobility Advisory Committee, and Judy Powell, General Manager of the St. John's Transportation Commission. Please join us, and let's get moving. I'm joined by Amer Afridi. Amer is Manager of Transportation with the City of St. John's. Thank you, Amer, and thank you for joining us this evening. So you've been with the city now for about 18 months. Tell us what you did before you joined the city.
So before joining the city, I worked in different government levels. I worked with the Ministry of Transportation, Ontario, and then I work with the City of Surrey as well for over 10 years. Also, I work at different international organizations as consulting, in the consulting as well. My experience in transportation is over 20 years before joining the City of St. John's.
So I guess a big focus for the City of St. John's has been active transportation over the last little while. So perhaps you can just give us a brief overview of what active transportation actually means.
So active transportation is, in a simple terms, that we want to have people taking off the cars. And in what that means is that we want to promote walking, cycling, e-bikes, and scooting, as well as running and jogging. So all these active modes adds to the transportation network within the city.
So a big part of active transportation is shared use of shared use paths. And as you're aware, that's become a somewhat of a challenging issue for the city, and it's created a lot of dialogue. So just tell us how a shared use path works and what the benefits of it are.
So the shared use path, what we, as the City of St. John's, have a unique topography. And also the street network makes it challenging in order to accommodate any more modes of transportation, especially the shared use paths. Now, having the shared use path, we would like to use international standards and industry best practices to have them implemented within the city. What it means is that we would like to promote walking and we would like to promote walking for all ages and abilities to go from point A to point B safely and efficiently. And that's what we are trying to do over here.
I think shared use paths too increase the accessibility of the city and allow people with all different levels of ability to be able to move around the city more freely. Quite common in other cities and other jurisdictions in the country to have shared use paths?
Yes, so this is a new trend. Still the standards are being developed and we are trying to incorporate the best standards following TAC and other guidelines that are there in order to implement those projects within the city.
From my experience, I think most of the discussion around shared use paths happens when you talk about the paths in the city that go around the waterways, go around the rivers. So we go through some work, I think, has been done in terms of how we can route that without going, given the constraints of going near the river system.
So as I talk about that, we have a unique topography and we have good river areas. So moving forward, what we are planning to do is we need to maintain a good standard. That means that a minimum of 3-meter width is a shared use path, which is being shared by pedestrians and cyclists and joggers. Having said that, within the rivers, we will be routing our shared use path not along the rivers or the trails. However, if we are intersecting, that might be the only places where we will be intersecting the rivers. But most of the cases, we will have a separate shared use path, which is not on the lane. However, there's a division, a boulevard between a shared use path and a lane that reaches from east-west connection or north-south connections.
So I think when we talk about shared use paths, one of the controversies around it is the surface to be used, whether the surface will be granular or be a paved surface. So the paved surface is in many cases used more for accessibility reasons?
Yes, it is for accessibility reasons because we want to have all the folks with all ages and abilities to use that. With having special needs, that's the reason that we use asphalt most of the time for these shared use paths.
The other part that becomes important then is linking the multi-use paths or the shared use paths with Metrobus and with the Metrobus routes so that people have options to move around the city, whether it be taking a bus to one section and then using the paths to walk to get to their destination.
Yes, so that is the goal. As you can see, we have a lot of projects that's happening. And one of the examples that I give you is about Elizabeth Avenue. Yeah. We'll be adding a shared use path along Elizabeth Avenue, and that's a bus route as well. So if anybody chooses to use the buses in order to reach to their destination, there are bus racks that are available for cyclists to be used in summer and fall months. They can use the bus rack as well to reach to their destination.
So also in the other things that have happened in the last couple of years, certainly the pedestrian mall downtown has been part of that, getting people out, being able to walk in those spaces, the project in Kitty Vitty. How have they been successful?
So we have all the good news from all our residents about it. They really like it. One of the things that they have shown about is in order to connect the Kitty Vitty and the pedestrian mall with the shared use path projects, which we are planning to do in the next phase as develop an integrated mobility plan for the downtown area. We are planning to do that because we have limitations with the right-of-way, and we'll be considering that with citywide engagement in order to the best way on how to proceed on that.
So what do you envision is the time frame that we're working in here? We have a whole lot of projects that are happening. They're moving forward. What do you see in the immediate future for active transportation in the city?
So within the city, we have quite a few projects that's ongoing. Almost, I would say, over 15 plus kilometers of shared use path we will be implementing in the next 3 to 4 years. That's the funding is secured, and in future we will be looking at increasing those connectivity for these shared use path along the city for north, south, or east-west connections. In total, what we envision is around 165 kilometer of shared use path will provide us a good connectivity around the city in north, south, and east-west directions.
Fantastic. Well, Amer, thank you very much for joining us. You're always very knowledgeable in these issues, and we rely on your advice in many situations with regards to transportation, active transportation or not. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Metrobus on demand. Fast, affordable transportation at the tap of a button. Visit metrobus.com/book-a-ride for details.
Welcome back as we continue our discussion on active transportation and shared use paths. We're joined by Judy Powell, who's General Manager of St. John's Transportation Commission, or as we know it as Metrobus. Welcome, Judy. Justin Lee, who's a member of the Sustainable and Active Mobility Committee at City Hall, and Justin is here to join us as well. Thank you. And Meghan Hollett, who's with Ordinary Spokes, and as you can tell by the name, it's a bicycling advocacy group here in the city. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So Judy, there's been changes to Metrobus over the past number of years. Where are we now with ridership and changes that you've seen over the past couple of years at Metrobus?
We're seeing huge growth. Of course, during the pandemic was quite a challenging time for us. There were times during the pandemic we dropped as low as 15%. With the thoughts across the country that transit would take a few years to regain the ridership that we had before the pandemic hit. Right now, this year, we're at 44% higher than our 2019 numbers, so huge growth. Certainly, a lot of factors we think that have contributed to that. Our plan certainly is to study it in depth just to get a better understanding of who is on our buses. But we can certainly see the impact of cost of living, of inflation, the cost of fuel. We have a partnership with the province, of course, for people receiving income support. People are moving further outside the city centre, looking for more affordable rent and using transit. And of course, a lot of newcomers to our city, and we're seeing them coming from cities really that transit is a huge part of their day, and they're bringing that here with them.
So Justin, you're a member of the city's Sustainable and Active Mobility Advisory Committee. What is it the committee does, and what kind of issues do you discuss?
Well, we've been on the committee now for about a year since it was first formed, and it's comprised of a diverse range of individuals and some from representing organizations. And I think we've actually had some really good discussions with city staff over a wide range of topics over the last little while, some of which included shared use path, sort of design placement, public engagement plans, and also, just general conversations around some of the other strategies the city is working on right now, such as the heritage plan and the urban design guidelines. And, it has been a positive experience so far, and I recognize that we as a committee are advisory only. But city staff have been incredibly receptive to some of our comments and suggestions, and answering questions when we bring them.
Good. Well, you know, it's a very important function that committee serves, an advising council, and one that we thank you for your work. Meghan, ordinary spokes, you must have seen a growth in cycling in the city over the past couple of years.
Absolutely. We've seen an incredible increase in ridership. And for anybody that may not be familiar, Ordinary Spokes has been in St. John's for roughly 10 years. We are a community cycling repair hub. And so we have a focus on DIY or do-it-yourself. And we have a mandate to make sure that we're increasing affordable transportation for everybody in the city.
So Judy, just flip back to Metrobus. What are some of the challenges that you're facing right now with that increase in ridership? Has that created any particular challenges for you?
It certainly has. With such a rapid and unanticipated increase in ridership, you can't respond to that quickly. Needing to invest in additional resources, including buses. Certainly there's a lag behind the ridership increase and us being able to respond. So we are seeing large crowds on buses, and we have every available bus on the road, every available resource. And I said we're looking a little bit closer into who's making up our ridership, and is it here to stay? Are we expecting that increase to continue? And that'll help us make decisions to be able to plan to be able to serve that ridership in the years moving forward.
So, Justin, shared use paths have been a major issue in the city lately. There's lots of discussion around them, and the city has undertaken with federal funding to make some significant investments in that. Tell us a little bit about the whole concept of shared use paths and some reticence that some members of the public may have about sharing the paths.
Yeah. Well, before moving to St. John's about 3 years ago, I grew up in Winnipeg, and I cycled for about a decade there, and there were a lot of shared use paths along with quiet residential streets that I was able to use, and I think that when we look at the sort of statistics around what kind of cycling infrastructure is appropriate, whether it be a shared use path or separated bike lane, that shared use paths are appropriate given the ridership expectations in St. John's. That said, I've had mixed experiences riding on shared use paths, but I think a lot of it comes down to living in society of people and how we treat each other, both with empathy and kindness and respect. I suppose, go to Costco on the weekend. You would think that with all these cars and people and carts and all these people, you would think that how many collisions are there in a Costco on a weekend? And none of any consequence, really. And, we think about a shared use path and the etiquette and respect we have for other users of that path. And there are always going to be outliers, and we can always cling on to those exceptions as being rules, but they're not rules, they're still exceptions. And shared use paths provide these great benefits that will connect communities, improve transportation choices, that I see that as a great opportunity to move forward as a community.
Yeah, for connecting the community. And Meghan, you see the work now that's been done on Elizabeth Avenue in terms of that path, the Kelly's Brook Trail that's in process. So how do you see that as changing bicycling in the city?
I think that this is a really amazing opportunity for cyclists in the city. Of course, the Bike Master Plan that was adopted by Council in June 2019, that was born under the premise that riding shouldn't be an act of bravery. And as is written in that plan, which I think is amazing. And so shared use trails will help take that scary part out of it for a lot of people. And of course, I think shared use trails will also increase a healthy city, will help increase an affordable city for a lot of folks. And so I'm very hopeful.
Judy, we talk about and we hear about electrification of the fleet at Metrobus. And it's not as simple as going out and buying electric buses. Perhaps you can explain some of the work that goes on behind that.
We're just completing our study. and it isn't as simple, like I said, as an off-the-shelf solution. It basically looks at our service and the uniqueness of our service. I mean, we do have unique topography here compared to some cities within the country. We have to look at, you know, the electrification infrastructure required to support that fleet, what routes are more suitable, you know, and basically look at how you best phase that in over time. And as technology changes, it'll offer us more options as well. But essentially, it's a very tailored plan for each transit system. So that's where we are working through that right now. We want to make sure, you know, when you start this, you know what you're doing and you do it right.
Justin, the key to all this is connectivity, and not only connectivity of the trails, but connectivity to Metrobus and other forms of transportation. How do you think we're doing in terms of connectivity? Do we have a site here, that sightline, so to speak, that we're going to achieve in the future?
You know, I think the city is making a start. You know, for some, you know, it's too much, and for some, it's not fast enough. There's always going to be that tension, but I would say that St. John's is an old city, and when cars became popular, right, it took decades to build out this infrastructure. And, you know, to then build out your active transportation network on when all this infrastructure is already built, it is, you know, I will admit, it is complicated, and there are costs. But, you know, this is the way forward as we attempt to build, you know, an equitable and sustainable transportation network. It's just the work that needs to be done, and this is work that's future-looking. You know, and I think for, you know, for a city that has declared a climate emergency, you know, the question is, well, how much faster can you do this?
Yeah, and that is the challenge, Megan. There's different types of biking too. Some people like trail riding. Some people, the pump track in Kitty Vitty has been a tremendous success. Where do you see the tour? There's a tourism part to this too, in that people come travel to do that. Do you see that as being a potential for St. John's?
Absolutely. I think for anybody that's moving around the city this summer, they'll see a lot more bike racks on the back of vehicles. I'm sure Judy and colleagues see a lot more bikes that are on the front of buses on the racks. We have just seen an announcement on the Great Northern Peninsula for tourism there with cycling. So I think there is a lot of economic growth there. And again, with healthy cities in mind, there's a lot of potential there. And it's not just tourism, of course. Like, as we've been speaking, it's also day-to-day citizens that just want to be able to get around. So it's an absolute opportunity in many sectors.
Yeah, and the other big part of this, of active transportation, is of course providing accessible transportation options. Judy, paratransit has been a big issue for the city. It has just explain to us a little bit about the system that we have.
Yes, so paratransit offers a door-to-door service for persons with disabilities. We have a fleet of 18 buses, but we are seeing more interest in people using our conventional transit service. And over the years, as we're replacing our fleet, we're buying more accessible buses, we're offering more accessible features, and we are seeing more people that are approved for paratransit service using our conventional service. And you'll also notice we've also changed the branding of the paratransit fleet. And, you know, so we're making it part of, you know, the conventional brand of services, so that it does reduce the feeling of isolation or barriers, so that people can feel more comfortable moving from one type of service to the other.
And of course, Justin, the shared use paths provide accessibility for people who are using wheelchairs, or people that are pushing strollers as well, right?
Yeah, you know, as a new parent, my child is, well, newish. My child's 2.5 now. Sometimes I forget how small she used to be and how big she is now. You know, her favorite book begins with the line, "What shall we build, you and I?" Yeah. I think that's such a fitting question for how we build the city and who we build the city for and as we move forward. And that we have a sustainable transportation network that includes all these different ways of getting around the city, that provides choice and option, but equity and joy and opportunity and prosperity. That's why am I on this committee, putting in my volunteer time? And I think to myself, well, what shall we build, you and I? And it's always been this way, even before I had children. But I think that when I say these words to her, when we read this book together, it's always my mind. And being an urban planner professionally, I think about the city and what shall we build, and what future will she have.
Well, that's a great way to end our discussion on active transportation and shared use paths. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Did you enjoy the show? Let us know. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns with anything that you've seen on this episode of Municipal Matters, please drop us a line by email at municipalmatters@stjohns.ca. We will try to answer any questions that you may have.
It gets easier to see just how real climate change is. It's time for us to make better choices and take action. By recycling more at home, we make a world of difference, one blue bag at a time. We keep waste out of landfills, and we extend the life of precious natural resources. We all have a role to play, which is why MMSB is partnering with communities across the province to increase recycling at home. Join the curbside revolution. Learn more at recycleathomernl.ca.
Children want to learn new skills. High Five programs, like the ones at the City of St. John's, provide them with activities and tasks that make them feel special, important, and successful. Learn more about the city's accredited High Five recreation programs today.
Today. Extreme weather can hit quickly. Because of climate change, high-risk weather is becoming more common and severe across Canada. 1 in 3 Canadian adults have experienced a major weather-related emergency or disaster. Know the risks in your area and learn what actions you can take. Are you ready? Visit getprepared.ca. A message from the Government of Canada.
If you have a comment about this program,